Priceless bluefin tuna. Often all it takes is a simple decoy. The greedy tuna will easily take the bait. Let the bait fish escape first. Wait until he's a few hundred meters out to retrieve the line. By depleting the tuna's energy repeatedly, the angler can catch this bluefin tuna. No wonder it's considered the highest paid job in the world. It's one of the easiest jobs. A new day is coming. Captain Dave arrives at Chatham. He hopes to catch a high-quality tuna today. Propelled his team from third place to championship. It has certainly been a long journey. I hope the tuna net gets what it wants. Jack, captain of the time, flies. Not like the other captains. Tuna fishing in Chatham again. I'm going out on my own. He thinks it's easier to get to the top. The pair distributed all the decoys at different water levels to make sure that wherever the tuna is, I have a chance to bite the bait. When Nick saw seabirds skimming overhead, Jack's detector is responding. The fishing rod bends. In the moment of grasping the fishing rod, Jack feels the tuna unstoppable. The line was flying out without stopping. Suddenly the line breaks at this moment. Their faces turned as if they had been hit hard. Just then, another fishing rod at the stern was bitten. The recently lost tuna is back on the hook. The speed of the reversal was surprising, with the tuna's biting face gradually eased. They moved the fishing rod to a wide area in the bow. Nick suddenly increased the force of his hand, but the tuna remains unpulled. It even has the power to break the fishing rod. The battle raged for 40 minutes. The tuna is beginning to show signs of fatigue. From deep water to bottom position, Jack quickly picked up the harpoon, slamming into the tuna. 2 strokes of the tuna and a sudden loss of strength. With the tuna floating feebly, Nick tied it down. Pull on board. The tuna was measured to be 2.49 meters long. Looks like their strategy of spreading out the bait is working. You can lose a tuna and still catch it again. It was as if the tuna net had been helped. The wind is strong today. They don't even have to turn on the accelerator. They can ride on the wind to save fuel. But their physical exertion is enormous. After all, it's not easy to stay on a rolling ship. But they haven't been bitten by tuna yet. It made Dave wonder, is tuna extinct? He found OTT not far away. I heard the same thing from him. Except for that young man, Jack. No one succeeded in catching tuna. But fishing is like that. You don't even see the fish on a bad day. And if it's luck, just drop the bait. The tuna will come to you. Time flies back in port. They started selling their catch of tuna. Now Jack is a member of the fleet. Whoever catches the most tuna just has to keep it up. They are likely to compete for the first place. Ultimately, though, it's all about the quality of the tuna. After removing the useless parts, the tuna weighed 329 pounds and 149 kilograms. Next, the meat quality of the tuna will be concerned. Rick says it's brightly colored. The core looks good too, just not enough fat. Fortunately, the current market conditions are good. The price we can offer is quite satisfactory. This made Jack eager to know how much it could be worth. And Rick stopped being a mystery. Direct quote $16 a pound. That means the 2 young people would make $5,264. The fat tuna is still in the same position as yesterday. A big fish was caught here before. Well, it's almost a day now. Why is there still no sign of tuna? So does the tuna net next door. Both teams waited patiently at sea. But Bob didn't give up. Asked about the tuna net, only to learn that their instruments were ringing. Bob was stunned. Why is it so quiet on your side? Sandro later confessed that it was a hoax. Bob stared out into the sea, like a stagnant pool of water. There's not a single tuna in the whole ocean. These people's hearts are literally drenched in ink. The detector's buzzer clearly neighed in the ear, but still scammed the young men who are new to us. At 280 feet of blue, there's an undercurrent. There was a slight tremor at the tip of the rod. The sharp point of the hook has penetrated the tuna's jaw. The prey they've been waiting for has finally emerged. The fishing rod's curvature into the full moon indicates the weight of the behemoth. Bob's pupils vibrated when he got the news. You just swore there was no movement. The salty sea breeze is full of lies. Cut back to the deck of the tuna net. Jody's knuckles were white with exertion. The frantic speed with which the line came out frightened him. This is definitely a record-setting deep-sea monster. But suddenly the balance began to tilt. Jody tensed his waist to steady the lower plate, and the winch gave a triumphant neighing. Inch by inch, the rope pulls the prey toward the light. When the silver-gray dorsal fin cuts through the waves, Sandro's harpoon came through the air and grazed the tail fin. Shit, this is a perfect angle to miss. The once accurate hunter has become so clumsy. Maybe we should get Sandro back in the main line. Keeping the prey off the hook is crazy. As Jody pulls the giant to the boat again, Sandro's shadow hung over the side of the ship. This time the cold light goes right behind the gills. The sea glowed with dark red flowers of death. The sailors wrapped their lashing cords neatly, although the long wait was suffocating. But when the cold tail slaps the board, all the heat turns into a salty sea breeze, waiting for deep-sea visitors to cool in the surge. Together, they hoisted it onto the deck. This is the fourth prize taken by the net. 2 meters of streamlined body, perfectly in line with the Fisheries Department's fishing standards. On deck of the windmill, Captain Taylor, 2 kinds of bait are being dropped into the vortex to test the preferences of this strange sea. Old Spotty from a moonshine next door pretended to be confused when Taylor asked him about it, chattering about the big dream of the day. Tyler's eyes almost rolled into the clouds. The change in the fishing rod came just then, as they rush to the trembling line. The carbon fiber rod body has bent into a thrilling arc. The ravenous predator is tearing at the bait. This philandering fellow tried to chase the lure of 2 ships at once. The blue veins on the back of Taylor's frantically curving hand burst. We can't let moonshine get away with this. Marissa frowned as she takes over the fishing rod. The line became tangled with the anchor. Taylor took a lunge and pulled up the cable. A silver parabola in the air. When the chaos is over, the mermaid fight begins again. When the battle continued until 7 o'clock sharp in the twilight. The countdown is like the sword of Damocles. Taylor pointed the harpoon decisively at the tuna and slammed it down. After successfully hitting the target, after a long and fierce fight, finally succeeded in catching the big fish. Tie the rope firmly behind the fish's tail. Taylor immediately increased the ship's speed. Race against time to get back to port for sail. After driving for an hour, they hauled the tuna onto the deck. With the tuna crashing down on the boat, they found that this is a 2.29 meters long fish. However, the tuna net was now in great trouble. They may not make it back to port today. The ship's alarm system beeps constantly. The sound is similar to the vibration of a mobile phone. I thought it was my phone. Soon, the tuna network was grounded. Dave quickly began to examine the problem. After some trial by fire, the captain finally found the problem. The engine cooling system is damaged. Now you have to replace the cooling system and wait for it to cool. But the cooling process took a long time. It was 10 o'clock at night. They are still under intense repair. It seems that the problem is not simple. It took most of the day just to replace the parts. It was 11 o'clock in the night. They're 3 kilometers from a port. Now we have to wait for the engine to cool. Time passed to 11:30. They tried again to start the engine. The temperature finally stopped rising. Several people worked together to solve the problem of the ship. Start heading for the port. Only 6 minutes to midnight. The tuna net arrived at port in time. But time is tight. The buyer quickly disposed of useless parts. The final tuna weighed 230 pounds and 104 kilograms. Time is getting tight. Dave didn't want to hear any more from Rick. After all, you have to get the money before 12 o'clock. Rick finally agrees to buy it for $14. Let them make $3,220. They managed to sell the tuna before 12 o'clock. Get ready for the next day's fishing. At sunrise the next day, Taylor returned to the port with the tuna. After all, they could not return in time yesterday. Government regulations limit fishing to 1 tuna a day. This fish can only count towards today's share. What a waste of fishing time today. After removing the useless parts, the tuna has a net weight of 340 pounds and 154 kilograms. This fish is of superior quality. Fat texture clear. The color is as bright as a cherry, but the core is a little scorched. The price has dropped to $14. The siblings earned $4,760. Still, they were luckier than some fleets. Some have yet to find anything. Like Bob, they were at sea all day. There was no sign of any tuna. Now, they have to rearrange the mackerel bait. The reason is that they changed the fishing point. Nothing came out of Chatham waters yesterday. Bob is having doubts about that at the moment. Yet OTT stayed put. Good Bob didn't want to see OTT lose everything this year. So he began to persuade OTT to find another fishing spot. But OTT believes that this place has been passed down for 2 generations. There will be no tuna-free situation. Bob was helpless in the face of OTT's insistence. By now, Bob had tuna on his hook. He had to deal with the situation first. Manny, after a simple test. The fish didn't seem very big. Even basic loop operations can be rewarding. But his time is shorter. It wasn't long before John took over. The old man is the master fisherman of the boat. He pulled for a while and discovered the accident. The tuna's tail got entangled with the fishing line. The fish could break free at any moment. But he's the main fisherman. For a moment, not only was nothing wrong, and pulled tuna to the surface. However, this great opportunity is blown by Manny. The harpoon was stuck in the tuna's tail by mistake, so he can still break free and escape. But it's not a serious problem. Just pull it back out and put another shot in. Manny adds another shot. Bob keeps the tuna close to the boat. Have John tie the rope up. Successfully caught the 5th fish of the year. After the tuna has cooled, it took several men to pull him into the boat. The tuna was measured to be 2 meters long. They had a lot of luck. None have been less than 2 meters since the start of the season. It's all fat tuna making a lot of money. Dave led the crew out to sea again, ready to catch today's tuna. But by now they were all tired, despite last night's successful sale of tuna. But the journey home was not smooth. The plan was to refuel on the return journey. As a result, the shop has closed. They can't get to their favorite fishing spot. Fishing is limited to inshore areas. Also pay attention to the fuel condition at all times. Marcia looked at the tuna nets on one side. I was just amazed that this guy was here. Although I wonder why they're here. But Marcia doesn't like having other boats around. So he started the stationary ship, head to other prepared fishing spots. And they just left. The detector on Dave's boat found something. Looks like Marcia has a bad streak. That's when we left the fishing spot. And the tuna bit Dave's fishing rod. Look at the slightly bent pole. Sandro thinks it's lucky he didn't add oil last night. Otherwise, we wouldn't be catching any tuna. Jody watched the speed of the line going out. This appears to be a Big Mac. They just didn't think about it. Kept it for half an hour. That made Sandro, who took over, very angry. Decided not to waste the tuna's energy. Start recycling fishing line, although it might cause the tuna to run off the line. But if you catch the fish in a short time, we can return to the port to sell tuna. Take the money and go cool. But the battle came to an hour, only to spot the tuna. Watching the fish being pulled closer by Sandro, Dave immediately took out his harpoon and aimed. Soon the tuna came to the boat. Dave held the harpoon up against the boat. A moment of tuna's head. He immediately put the harpoon in the fish's head, then hooked the tail of the fish and tied the rope easily. A giant bluefin tuna. When Sandro and Jody celebrate, Dave spread the word about the tuna. When Marcia learned this information, the angry put on that and cursed loudly. I want to go back to my old fishing spot. Dave's tuna was cooling down. I can't believe they were watching. With the tuna being pulled aboard. With a simple measurement, it's 2 feet 64. It's a nice big fat fish. So far they've caught 2 fish in 24 hours. A little too much luck. Soon the tuna net returned to port. It only takes a few hours to go back on sale. Make Rick a little happy too. After all, he's a double dealer, right? You can resell it for more money. After removing the head and tail, tuna weighs 514 pounds, 233 kilograms. It is the largest in the current market. The quality of the fish is also beautiful. It has plenty of fat. The core is a little cherry-colored. This brought a smile to Dave's face, which had been somewhat serious. With Rick offering $19 a pound, earned a couple of people $9,766. All that money from one fish. It gets them straight to first place. Another Bob, who's already caught a fish. And now it's back to the buyer. Probably due to the running time of the original episode. I didn't get much of a facelift in between. He just told us. The tuna ended up weighing 313 pounds, 142 kilograms. Rick is taking out the core of the fish and small pieces of fishtail and began the final meat inspection. On the surface, you can see that there's a little fat on the meat. The color's not great and the core's okay. In general, it's not so good, but it's prettier than some of his previous tuna. I can get you up to $17 a pound. Make them angry for $5,321. The ships have fought for 2 days. The flight of time grabbed first place. Well, that's all for this program. Give it a thumbs up, and let's look forward to the next episode.